Hello, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to the Be Strong Families webinar series, Enhancing and Empowering Conversations for Positive Change. As you all come into the room, please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Hello, Aida, Alexia. Hello, Amanda and Roy. Welcome. See Angela and Bryn, Courtney and Krista. Hello, welcome. Please make sure that in the chat you let us know where you're from. My name is Lori Sanchez, and I will be your co-host for today. Go to the next one, please, Dean. Welcome again. Please say hello in the chat. We want to hear where everybody is from. South Carolina, from Greenwood. Welcome. We have people from Wisconsin. I've been to Wisconsin, only in the summer though. I've grown up and live in sunny Texas, and I have an allergy to the cold. Please continue to send your greetings. Make sure that your chat says to everyone so that we can all see your greetings and your words. We want to welcome you today to our webinar series. And we want to welcome our presenter, Chad Morris, who is an NPCL Master Trainer with the Trinity Family Life Center. Chad has more than 12 years of experience in the human services field. He has worked in the areas of community-based mental health and family stabilization programs, and he's the Chief Executive Officer at the Trinity Family Life Center in Richmond, Virginia. Trinity is an organization, the Family Life Center, that serves as a hub and serves the needs of the greater community. His areas of skill are program and project development and implementation, team building and staff development, case management coordination, family engagement, collaborative partnership building, and group facilitation and training. Chad is a product of the Henrico County Public Schools and Virginia Commonwealth University. He is an NPCL Master Trainer and Fatherhood Life Coach in Responsible Fatherhood Development, and a Master Trainer in the Boyhood to Manhood Rites of Passage curriculum. Today, Chad is going to be presenting the Proving Ground Strategies to Engage, Equip, and Empower Fathers. Chad, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Honored to be here. I always enjoy sharing platform and holding space with Be Strong Families. And I'm excited to see all of the providers and participants rolling in. It's such a wonderful platform to be able to share and exchange ideas and thoughts. And that's what I'd like to do today, to share some thoughts and perspective with you and hopefully glean some perspective for you all. I'm a firm believer that as we work in the space of helping families, we stand in a very good position when we are here to educate and learn from each other. It's a two-way street. And so what I hope to share today are some strategies behind the why about engaging fathers. What I will share with you is that this is a teaser of sorts, a snapshot of a workshop that I'm going to be facilitating with Be Strong on April 10th. So I'm incredibly honored and happy that you all were able to join me today. So if there are questions while I'm presenting, please put them in the chat. And I hope to, at the end, not to give you death by PowerPoint, but to share information with you. And at the end, open it up for a dialogue. But if there are pertinent questions to particular slides, please let it be known. And I will pause if I don't see it. I know that Lori or technical assistance will bring it to my attention. But thank you today. Thank you so much for coming in, for having me.
Yes, and welcome everybody. Please let us know, use your chat. And Dee, can we have the next one? We're just going to cover really quickly a few housekeeping and ways to engage. For those of you who are new to Zoom, please let us know that when you're ready to speak, raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute yourself. Feel free to type your comments in the group chat. Just make sure that it says to everyone, because if it says hosts, then the only people that are going to be able to see it are Chad and myself, and we want everybody to join in this conversation. Please be patient with us. Sometimes Zoom can get a little crazy on us and give up, but don't you give up on us. We'll be here. If you get knocked off, please come right back in. We're going to be here. And if you have friends that were not able to register today, let them know that we're on YouTube as well. You can find us on the YouTube channel, also being live streamed. Next, Dee. All righty. Before we begin, we want you to enjoy your time here. And so we have some agreements to make the space enjoyable for everyone. We ask that you speak from your own experience. Use I statements because you're an expert in your own life only. And we ask that you follow the golden rule. We were taught it in kindergarten, and it's always the best way to live your whole entire life, to treat people the way you want to be treated as well. We ask for your full presence. Please, no multitasking. Gift yourself this hour so that you can be with other people and maybe learn something today. And if you need a minute, please take a minute. We'll be right here. Just go ahead and take care of what you need to take care of and come on back. Next. Oh, I'm sorry. If you agree with these agreements, please type into the chat, I agree, and we'll move forward. We want to make sure there's safe space for everyone. So if everyone will please type in the chat, I agree, we can make this a safe space for all of us and we can move on. Thank you. I see them all coming in the chat. Perfect. All righty. We are good to go. Let's move on. Chad, please.
Thank you, Lori. As shared, my name is Chad Morris. I am the CEO of Trinity Family Life Center. We are a 501c3 nonprofit entity in Richmond, Virginia, where our focus is, our mission, of course, is strengthening families and uplifting communities. We are a social enterprise model, so we do not always rely on grants, even though grants are fantastic. We found social enterprise micro businesses in order to sustain our daily operations. But we've been able to expand our family engagement and strengthening families, uplifting communities programming through the years by way of grant opportunities and contracts with local government, with school systems, with social service entities or human service entities in the state of Virginia, as well as in the localities that we are close to. The Richmond metro area is consisting of Henrico County, Hanover County, and Chesterfield County surrounding the city of Richmond. So it's a bit of suburban sprawl outside of the city, but we are in Henrico County, very close to Richmond, but we work with all 4 localities, and we've also worked with our state social service entity, as well as train and facilitate programs, implement programs, and things of that nature. You'll see 3 slides at the bottom. Or 3 icons at the bottom. NPCL, which you'll hear me refer to and you see in my title, as the NPCL Master Trainer. The curriculum that we use to engage fathers and our motherhood co-parenting curriculum is those were created by the National Partnership for Community Leadership, Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, who's been an icon in fatherhood work and supportive parenting, co-parenting work since I was in high school. Since 1992 is when he started his career. We've had the benefit of working with his organization since in 2013 to implement and stand up programs in our local area, which we'll get into in a few minutes when I get to some other slides. You see, of course, Trinity Family Life Center in the middle, and then Proving Grounds. Proving Grounds is an initiative as well as a business that is centered around engagement strategies for wellness. So not only do we train facilitators to stand up their own programs, but we also do male accountability and male responsibility sessions along with pro-parenting work. Next slide, please. Okay, so our objectives today, we're going to explore what I've come to learn from my mentor, Dr. Johnson, what he's coined as the social physics of responsible fatherhood, the why behind how we've gotten here with the current situation in many localities across the country with father absence and with single parent households being very predominant in our community, still having very high numbers. That is sort of the how we got here. We're going to briefly examine the negative impact of father absence. We're going to talk about who are dads today, what those roles look like, and I'm sure in your various practices you encounter all of these iterations of the men that we refer to as dad. And then we're going to round out with why fatherhood engagement is important. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I was touching on Trinity Family Life Center, we are a 501c3. Our mission is to strengthen families and uplift communities by enhancing family stability, pursuing academic excellence, and providing services that create fit and vibrant communities. Our organizational description is very brief. We embrace a holistic approach in order to meet multi-generational needs within the diverse Richmond, Virginia community. Our organizational pillars are family and community. We do have a child development center that is on site in our community center. Our community center is a 29,000 square foot complex in the urban area between Henrico County and Richmond City. And it is an economically depressed area as well as a food desert. We have the largest child care facility and gymnasium in this area that is not sponsored by a governmental organization or that is not a locally governmental run community center. Academic excellence, of course, transfers into our standing with our preschool kids, as well as the school-age children that we have in our after-school programs. Our children are leaving our program prepared for school by reading 2 and 3 grade levels above. These have been consistent, duplicatable processes that we've had. My own children are products of being here, and they do great in school. So we definitely believe in educating and preparing these children for school. We also do family stabilization programs, and we have a gymnasium. That's where our health and wellness support comes in, and our advocacy and leadership is around supporting foster youth and alumni, teaching them how to advocate for themselves into the systems, which led us into family finding, and also led us into responsible fatherhood, motherhood, and co-parenting, even being partners with Be Strong Families to host parent cafes here in the city of Richmond, as well as our rites of passage and violence prevention programming have all stemmed off of the work that started from foster care. And we do try to cultivate leadership, just as Be Strong Families has parent-run cafes by parent-led organizations. We believe in empowering the men and women who come through our programs to credential them as facilitators and help them advocate to stand up programs in the communities that they live in, even in their neighborhoods, and we support them all the way. Next slide, please. Okay, so part of our engagement is to partner with Henrico County Department of Social Services, the Richmond County Department of Social Services, community-based agencies around responsible fatherhood development and co-parenting. We've managed a network of several locations that host responsible fatherhood, motherhood, co-parenting groups across the city and in the locality, even in the local justice facilities as well. As I'm a master trainer in these curriculum, I'm able to birth facilitators and trainers. So I'm a big believer in, one, collecting the data that's needed to sustain programming, to make sure we refine our why, but also in the anecdotes and the stories, because these statistics are always attached to real life circumstances. Numbers alone don't tell the story, but the relationships that we build with the parents that we support have turned into a network of parents who are working on behalf of community to practice what we call community regeneration. How do we sow back seeds into the community to help strengthen the fabric of community? Next slide, please. Okay, so social physics of responsible fatherhood. Now, I won't kill you with stats, but I will explain this to you very briefly. If we go back to 1910 and 1930, 46 states addressed the growing issues around support for single mother families by way of the motherhood pension programs. Simultaneously, what was occurring, when we look at the numbers and statistics from World War I, there were over 1 million fathers who didn't come back home. And just the concept of families being fragmented from an overseas war, a global war, a global conflict, that out of all the men that left, 1 million did not return back home. Given the economic impact at that time and the societal and the familial impact, it caused local entities, neighborhoods, state governments, local governments, and the national government to begin to look at what happens with children and families when dad's not around. And to that point, the mother's pension served as a model for aid for dependent children. ADC is outlined in the Social Security Act of 1935. So those Social Security Acts in the 1930s were to address what occurred when a million dads didn't come home. If we found ourselves in this predicament, where are they going to go? The story that you know as follows over the subsequent decades were the advent of public housing, benefits from women and children or families, and men were often devoid of those benefits unless they were otherwise injured or they were dealing with SSDI income. Interestingly enough, if you look at the decades that followed, the 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s, you started to see an increase in out of wedlock childbirths, more single parent households, and more situations with dads not being in the home. Now, this being the case, the ADC was a model for welfare programs for more than 60 years before the Reform Acts in the 1990s and the subsequent acts that occurred since then. Next slide, please. So here's what we know. I touched on this briefly. Research indicates that the years that follows 1940, there had been significant changes in family dynamics, an increase in the divorce rates and a decrease in the number of marriages, an increase in births of single women, an increase in number of single parent households, and the number of single parent households more than tripled. In 2019, there were just under 19 million children living in single parent households in the United States. 15.76 million of those children live with single mothers and 3.23 million live with single fathers. Children living in homes with a single mother as head of household with no spouse presently had no spouse present, had a poverty rate of 47.6%, more than 4 times the rate of married couples. Now, we can't make the assumption that assumptions about where dad is, but we can see by those numbers where they are not. Next slide, please. And so what we've learned through academia and from anecdotal stories, and I'm sure that you all have found this in your various practices, father absence contributes to a negative cycle of outcomes for children from pregnancy, birth through adolescence in the following ways. Increased risk factors for infant mortality, 20 times more likely to have behavioral disorders, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 32 times more likely to run away, 10 times more likely to have abuse and chemical substances, 9 times more likely to end up in a state-operated institution, and 20 times more likely to end up in prison. What we have to remember, even though our work is supported by statistics, we're talking about real lives here. An anecdote I like to use with my families when I serve them in the city of Richmond, if you've got 10 households with children in the household, 6 of them are single parent households in the locality that we live in. So what I'm always mindful of groups when I'm engaging them is we don't often see that statistic until it really stares us in the face. So if I have a room of 50 men or 50 parents, I ask them all to sign up and count themselves in groups of 10. And if we end up with 60 people, and then I say, okay, can everybody 1 through 6 remain standing, everybody 7 through 10 sit down, and then explain to them that that's what our single parent household makeup looks like in the city of Richmond, it startles people and amazes them. So while we can't make assumptions about where dad is, we can do the due diligence of those of us who have programs, be mindful about how we engage dads and remember and refine what the importance of fatherhood engagement is going to be. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we talk about the roles of fathers today and who makes up these fathers that we work with in our various programs, we have to understand that modern fathers and families are a diverse group, and they do not look the same. We can't make assumptions about their situations or how they got there, but their varied circumstances can create complications or barriers to their involvement with their children and their families. So men parenting and raising children could be considered biological, legal dad, social dad, step up father, and I put step up intentionally because often stepfathers are an under-addressed group at times who make a choice to be involved. You've also got uncles, grandfathers, brothers, cousins, all that make up this diverse group of men that we call dad. And so considering what the society we live in today, today's dads can be present and active, but then others, you have dads that are students. They may be away at college. They may be deployed on military leave. They may be incarcerated, or they may be local and be uninvolved for any number of reasons in the lives of their children. We won't make assumptions about how we got to that place, because I'm sure the anecdotes you all will share in your experiences tell a varied story. But the reality is these situations do make it difficult to support fatherhood engagement, support father involvement, but make it entirely necessary for us to try to engage them effectively and meet them where they are. Now, the families that we encounter, as I'm sure you've seen, can be married, they can be cohabitating, they can be blended families, recombined, or be single parent households. So it doesn't mean dad isn't around, but it may mean that for a large portion of these families, dad is not in the home. Next slide, please. Okay, so if we talk about barriers to fathers' involvement in supportive family services programs, or whether they are community-based programs, whether they are locally provided programs, whether they are through state or local departments of social services, there's any number of reasons that dads are either sent to us or seek out the provider to try to get support. In our current programs, I would say about a rough estimate would be about 60% of the dads, 60 to 70% of the dads that are referred to our programs and the mothers that are referred to our programs are referrals, either coming through court services units, coming through guardian ad litems, coming through mandate from a juvenile and domestic relations court judge on the local level for any number of reasons. If it's coming through the court system, it could be because of a child support issue that's becoming expanded and extended. It could be because of custody. We get referrals from DV cases. With domestic violence cases, often there'll be a co-current enrollment in the anger management program, which is a portion of it, but also an enrollment in a pro-parenting program like Responsible Fatherhood, Responsible Motherhood, or a co-parenting program. So for us as providers in refining our why, I do want to share this specifically, and this is something I greatly agree with. There is a webinar by Walsh, Zach, Fent, and Davidson, Strategies for Involving and Engaging Fathers in Programming, and they back this up with statistics, but I borrowed a few of these things because they explained it so incredibly well that makes it plain for providers who work in the space to support dads. That, in paraphrasing, providers miss a great opportunity when we don't explicitly include fathers in our offerings and in our invitations and address them with programming and support for them. We know that historically, benefits have not been widely available for the average dad because of the way our child welfare system is set up. However, dads are in great need of support in these spaces in order for us to address the importance of father involvement beyond mythology, beyond what has been learned by watching prior generations. Those of us that are in the work know that men do benefit from the programs, and sometimes, even though there's about 30% of the men that seek us out, 30, 40% that seek us out to enroll because they heard about us from somewhere, large and in part, they're sent to us because of some other disparity or challenge in them supporting their children or having difficulties in the relationship with the mother of their children. That being said, we do miss a great opportunity. One thing that we have to be very mindful of as providers before we engage dads is we have to put assumptions and personal biases in their proper place and understand that they're there, because those dads do not deserve our assumptions when they've been mandated to us, and if they're seeking out our support, they definitely are not deserving of negative assumptions about the why. Even if their situation looks like 100 other stories you've heard, it's still a unique story for them. So the assumption that dad isn't around, he might be locked up, dismissing father's participation is unimportant, or seeing similar circumstances from 10 other dads we witnessed, we're projecting if we put that same reasoning on them, even though we are trying to qualify them through assessment and qualify them to try to support them the best way possible with our very programs. Sometimes as providers, we can fall into the discomfort with the conflict between the parents and trying to navigate that area between them for the benefit of the child. It may be some difficulty in navigating co-parenting support and confusion about the right time and right way to involve fathers. Do we involve them in co-parenting first? Do we involve them in anger management first? Do we involve them in the fatherhood program first? One thing that's really important about our fatherhood program that we've developed, we focus strongly on value systems so that each dad that is there gets to explore his personal value system without need for blame and building a trusting environment, so he's able to share and participate in a trusting environment where his opinion does entirely matter. Because the only thing we can't, it's very difficult to measure outcomes of these programs except for having certain indicators and action items there to complete. But one thing we can do if we have proper pre and post assessments with our programs, we can measure knowledge and we can measure attitudes. And if a person has a change in their knowledge base and a change in their attitude, they therefore have the proper tools in order to shift perspective. And if they're able to shift their perspective or their point of view, it is much more likely in our experience that they are able to shift their approach to involvement consistently and how they deal with the mother of their children and thereby how they support and show up for their own children. Now, fathers present some seemingly practical barriers: work schedules that conflict with program offerings, absence due to military deployment, incarceration, instability if they're dealing with homelessness issues, if they're dealing with substance abuse issues, and prioritizing the importance of all of their responsibilities are often some of the barriers that dad can present, right? And they also deal with motivational barriers, reluctance to be trusting in a group because we know that outside of the barbershop, in a lot of our communities or sports talk, there are not a lot of intentional places for men to gather, to be vulnerable, to have conversations about difficulties that they're encountering. It's counterintuitive for the average man to have that type of support group. So enrolling men into this, especially when they're told to come to us, can present a seeming barrier. I like to look at it as an opportunity because if you did not want to come, there's only two directions we can go. If you didn't want to come to the group because you were told to come to the group, then my job as a facilitator or our job as program managers is to meet dads where they are with no illusions about why you're here. And even though we know why you're here, I'm not your teacher, I'm not your educator, I'm a dad with a certain number of children or a parent with a certain amount of experience, or I've worked with this many parents, and you have children. If you add the ages of your dads in your room, the ages of their children end to end, in any given room of parents, you've got 100 some odd years or more of parenting experience that we all can learn from it, that we all can pull to the forefront as examples of what to do, examples of what not to do. How can we learn from those things to shift perspective? On top of that, you got some reticence due to the lack of other fathers participating. Some people don't see enough dads and they feel like they don't need to come. Sometimes they see too many dads and feel like it's not worth me saying any particular thing. Sometimes it's a lack of male program staff. Sometimes it's tension with the child's mother that could cause some motivational confusion for them. And sometimes a lack of clarity about the benefits of participation. How can you tell me how to be a better father? Is a question that we often got in the beginning of groups. And once they saw that we're not trying to tell you how to be a better parent, what we want to do is explore some concepts with you for you to shift your perspective on parenting so that you're able to get a different result out of your participation and possibly a different set of reactions and actions from your co-parent, whether you're in a relationship with them or not. And we try to use those opportunities as a motivator for change. And other times it's their current relationships that they're in that can present a barrier for them engaging with the children or with the mothers of the children they have outside of that relationship. That can be a barrier, but it's not impossible to surmount. And I'm sure that all of you have encountered these in varying degrees and found ways to work through it. We believe in the process of refining our reasons and always looking at new approaches and opportunities to share to help motivate dad to get past the excuse or get past the barrier that seems to present itself. Barriers can be worked around. They are not always permanent. And so we position ourselves to help dad solve the issue. If there's a problem, let's not stand in the problem. Let's position ourselves just like we did in math class when we got a word problem. I know I've got to solve this. Me not solving it or not participating in solving or not seeking help or taking advantage of help isn't an option when we know we've got to be part of the solution. Next slide, please. So in our varied programs, what tools have we found that help us effectively engage dads? For one is direct communication. No one likes to be talked at, and sometimes they don't like being talked to. Very often with dads, we have to find ways to talk with them, to engage in a two-way dialogue at minimum, in order to enroll them in the process to understand that even if you've been mandated to come here or if you voluntarily come, there's some benefit and value and some lessons that can be extracted from your story and the rest of these dads in the room. Our job is to set up the trusting environment, but directly communicating with dad and not dictating to him has been a great tool for us. Again, moving into avoiding unconscious bias and negative assumptions, that what I've come to find out is if you're going to assume or presume, the best presumption that you can make about your fathers and your programs is that fathers are interested and willing to learn and grow. If they show up, even if they're grumpy about it, there's still some willingness for them to change. They may be challenged into change, but that's the benefit of being able to establish trust in the first few weeks of your program. Another thing that we have to remember is it is best to operate from a strengths-based perspective. In recognizing their strengths and recognizing their accomplishments and contributions, that does not mean that there aren't deficits that can be overcome. There always may be deficits that can be worked on to improve, but very often dad is not celebrated and doesn't feel a sense of celebration. Very often men are dutiful, but I can speak for myself and quite a few dads that I know. While we don't expect appreciation, we don't necessarily expect accolades, being recognized for the positive effort that you place, it does something, especially for men facing significant challenges in their personal lives or the barriers for their relationships to engage their youth and engage the mothers of their children effectively in a healthy way. If we can work to recognize some of their strengths, what they are doing right, we have an opportunity to help them turn the tide by shifting perspective. Take an assessment of what you do well, take an assessment of what you may need to improve on. There we have a path to remedy that we can identify because we have some obstacles that we can work through in building resilience and realizing our lessons and realizing where our support is. We have the opportunity to greatly turn the tide. Another aspect is enrolling fathers as partners in the process of learning and growing with their peers and the program members. I am very mindful to share in each group I facilitate. I do still do direct facilitation. My love is direct service. Program management, running an organization are all great, but my passion that led me here was direct service. And so with dads, imagine you're in your mid-30s, which I'm not, but you get dads in the room that all have older children than you and all have way more parenting experience than you, although they've been referred to your program. Or if you don't have any children at all, how do you enroll them to tell them, I'm going to tell you how to be a better parent? It's a great opportunity to have them participate as partners in the program because their participation is what's going to drive the whole group forward. If you are able to facilitate an environment that is trusting, safe, and encourage generative conversations that are positioned for growth, you have an opportunity to enroll these same dads as operating as a self-savior of sorts. operating in the position where they are partners, where we're going to keep the boundaries of respect here because we're going to come up with a set of agreements that work for us as a group of men, us as a group of dads, where we're going to communicate effectively, where we're not going to move into disrespect. Similar to what Be Strong does in every workshop, every parent cafe. Let's set these agreements because agreements often trump rules. We know what the rules are to society and participation in law, but if we can come up with a set of agreements, I have the opportunity to get you to buy in to the process. Next is offering a varied program schedule that meets their needs and removes the barrier of time. So if you have the opportunity to operate on unconventional days of the week, it might be a Saturday morning. There may be a morning group one day a week for dads that work overnight. There may be evening-based groups. You may have virtual groups. We've got a great opportunity coming post-COVID because now virtual engagement is very important. And it's often a better option for men who might not be able to get there at 6 o'clock, get there at 7 o'clock p.m. to have a group on the same day of the week at the same time and be away from their families. So being creative with the program schedule as much as your budgets allow can greatly help your dads eliminate the excuse of being able to get there. Collaborating with other organizations and providers that support positive parent involvement, introduce them to the supportive partners and the resource opportunities. If you're operating in a collective impact model, where there are a lot of organizations that have have the support of families in mind to move in a particular direction, lean on your partners, because men that see a village of support, when they're not used to having a village of support, you can get a lot of positive buy-in from them in the program, and then you might not have to exhaust yourself in being the only one with the resources or to find the resources. You may be able to warmly walk them into another opportunity of support as you work to endeavor to change. One thing we found in working with children and families, if you work with the child alone, if the family dynamic doesn't change, it's not going to be a lasting change. If you work with the parents alone or one parent and you don't work with the other parent, very often there's not the large scale impetus for change. And the impetus for change is how do we support families? Because ultimately fatherhood engagement is about men showing up, fathers showing up for their children. And if we as a community of providers can't show up as a village for dad, we do ourselves a disservice in not having the collaborative support if it exists. If it doesn't exist in the area you're in, that's a different story. But if you have other program providers that are offering other pieces of programs that they do well to support your dads, enroll them in supporting your families. Enroll them in being guest speakers that might be able to share that piece of information more effectively than you or your program staff. The other thing that's important with dads is to listen to them. We know that sometimes dads are tough nuts to crack to get them to open up and share. But once you get them sharing, you got to listen to them. You have to consider what it is they're sharing. What if it's a 10% chance that they may be right, even if you've heard this story 100 times? How can you take what they're sharing with you and move into a generative space of working towards solutions instead of wallowing in problems of complaint? Because they got to go through the complaint phase to get that information out. Tuckman stages of group development say that forming, storming, norming, then performing are the processes that every group goes through. The storming is when you've got the complaints coming in. You've got the people who feels like their dads who feel like their story is the worst and everybody else has it easier than me. Well, once you get through that, then you've got a great opportunity to coalesce them based off having weathered the storm and moving into some effective generative work and growth. And then offer materials, anecdotes, and resources created by fathers, because men can often, or dads can relate to dads. If they feel as though they can relate to the content being given, even if they've not tried the solution prior to that point or not seen that point of view, they are more likely to explore, verify, reference things, and try different things because you've been promoting these things that are offered by people that they feel have similar circumstances and have worked. Next slide, please. Okay, so we come round back to this point. Why is fatherhood engagement important? For your engaged father, one, he feels responsible for and behaves responsibly towards his child, which is always beneficial. He's emotionally engaged and beneficial to the emotional development of his child. He's physically accessible. He provides material support to sustain the child's needs. This used to be the sole focus of governmental intervention. Is involved in childcare, has an influence on child rearing decisions. And one point that's not made on here, an engaged father is a much more effective team player with his co-parent. Ultimately, when we talk about our varied programs, from responsible fatherhood to motherhood and co-parenting, whatever they may be, parent cafes, the goal is for the parent to be team child, not anti-mom or anti-dad, but team child. How do we best position ourselves, given the circumstances that we're in, to be as supportive of our child's safety, health, well-being, and social and emotional development? How can we best participate to that, given where the chips have fallen in the past, and how can we organize these fallen chips to be much more effective? And it's really important that we help dads see, even if you're not with the mother of your children, it is entirely important for you to remain team child, instead of looking at it as you're in an adversarial relationship with mom, where the child will no doubt suffer from the lack of the ability to engage in healthy conversations to support that child. And lastly, has an influence on child rearing decisions. Next slide, please. And so, proving ground strategies was born out of these concepts that we understood through our early work. The fathers benefit from having a safe place and a trusting environment to explore circumstances and ideas about their responsibilities to their children. The relationship with the mother of their children or mothers, navigating the child support system, and any number of other issues that they face in parenthood. At Trinity Family Life Center, we utilize the NPCL, or that's the National Partnership for Community Leadership, responsible fatherhood curriculum to assist fathers in more effectively fulfilling their roles as parents, partners, and workers. Through our proving ground strategies, we assist fathers in navigating the child support system, becoming court ready. What do we mean by court ready? Court ready means that if dad walks into court and tells an emotional story about how he is a victim of what's occurred, he's not going to fare well, because victimhood for men, not saying that it could not happen, but victimhood for dads, as they present themselves in the court system, as you all well know, it presents with a lack of a certain amount of accountability. That just as it took two parents to make it requires two parents to be accountable for the benefit of that child. And very often in court situations where men feel as though or fathers feel like they're being dictated to, we have to be incredibly mindful that we are preparing them to be effective in court, that it is not a war, that it is not a fight when you're going into court. It's a situation it's a situation where you can take full advantage of the opportunity to mediate and have the court act in the best interest of your child. But to do so, you have to present the truth and put your best foot of your efforts forward, not move into a blame game and mudslinging with the parent, which turns into a very expensive, long and drawn out process, which often leaves dads disenfranchised or feeling disenfranchised and disconnected as if they have no support. And so again, we also support them by identifying and assessing community-based needs and resources and connecting with our partner agencies. We believe in warm referrals. I'm going to walk you in the door if I have the ability to, so that when you don't show up, or if you do show up, I've got an individual I can call to get a quick update on speed dial, so that we're calling you together when you didn't show up, because we're going to be on the same page and trying to support you, that you're going to walk the process out, but we're here with the super bumpers while we can keep them up to help you walk that process out. Next slide, please. And we move to a place of questions and answers if you all have any. I know that was a lot in a short amount of time. That's just a brief on engagement. Do you all have any questions, concerns, or thoughts?
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much, Chad, for all the information. I know when I was in high school as a parent liaison, it was really difficult. That was always our greatest challenge, is how do I get dads into the school? What program do I have? Donuts, gimmicks, all kinds of prizes, lotteries. And the idea of a support village for dads, I think, is great. How does that work for you at Trinity?
So at Trinity, we operate in two facets. Let me give you a little bit of backstory too. I was not a troublemaker in school. I was just a very curious-minded child that often found my way into the things that I was told not to do. I wasn't mischievous, but I was super curious. As such, myself and my high school friends, we still talk about, we were fortunate enough to grow up in a neighborhood where a lot of dads were present in my neighborhood. Middle class suburban neighborhood. Most of the dads were present. We knew the dads in the neighborhood. So when we saw somebody's dad coming to school to pick them up, and you peek out of the classroom, you see somebody's dad in the office, automatic assumption was you're in trouble. You're going to get it when you get home. He probably won't be on the bus. He might not even make it to school tomorrow when you saw dad. When we saw mom, we would make a beeline to the door. Hey, Ms. Jones, how you doing? It was a happy time. The culture for dads being in school was different when I was a kid. So for us, what we've been intentional about, that if we're going to support dads, we found the best ambassadors for dads are dads who get it. So while I'm a dad who gets it, I've got children that happen to be a dad. All of our support staff are now fathers. Some of them are moms. When we identify those men, so we have two components. One, we have an alumni program. So for the fathers that complete our responsible fatherhood development curriculum, we then enroll them in, before COVID, we were doing parent cafes with some frequency, or we would utilize other methods of engagement with dads. We do resource fairs, and we would call the alumni from various classes, successive groups of men that finish our group support groups, we call them back in. So if we've got 5 different locations we're operating these groups in, and I call 5 dads from each, now I've got 25 dads who have the same language, who have the same framing, that if I drop certain word nuances and references, they don't know each other, but when they see each other, oh, you know about value? Oh, you know about nah, cause she, that's a inside joke for dads that when they move into blaming. What happened? How did you end up here? No, because see what she did, it's a blame situation. And we banished non-concede by group 4. By the time we get to session 4, you can no longer blame her for why you're here. As the alpha male that you support yourself and propose yourself to be, we're going to practice accountability. And so moving through the steps of accountability, responsibility, actively showing up, when these alumni dads come back, they are the ambassadors for the groups, because as much as they might like my rapport, the rapport we build after a few weeks, when they see a dad they know that has been through this, they're much more likely to remain engaged. So these fathers that are alumni become ambassadors. A certain number of them have been trained as facilitators to stand up their own groups. They've been more positively proactive in terms of the recruitment for the program. Then we have a list of other providers and supportive organizations that do other things that we don't do well. And we have collective impact partnerships throughout the city that once a dad finishes with us, if he has additional content he wants to work on, I'll send him to a healthy relationships class sponsored by one of our partners. He may see me pop up in the healthy relationship class is sponsored by our partner, but whenever we show up, the agreement we have with our partner organizations is when you come, you're a participant. You're not a provider. You are coming as a participant to participate in this particular group with your boots on the ground, just like the facilitator or the coach is going to take you. Their boots on the ground too. We've been able to cultivate a fabric of community that way by being able to point men in the right direction for additional supports and keeping that alumni door open so they have extended and ongoing value with the new groups of men that come in.
That is fantastic. Those are great ideas, partnering with other organizations. And I think one of the biggest things that I heard was acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. Partnering with other organizations because somebody might be doing something that you're not trying, or that you haven't thought of, or that somebody else needs help with that maybe in your neighborhood that hasn't come up yet.
Definitely. And it offers tiers of support and tiers of trust to be built, that if I'm willing to send you to a partner to gain additional perspective and experience, you will, as much as you participate, it's a natural expectation that you'll begin to see these things for yourself and have some established ownership, because it's your time being spent as dad to improve your parenting skill set and improve your toolbox, if you will. But you don't have to take it from me. Just as you just said, I don't have all the answers, and the way I explain things are just from my perspective and my experiences. But when you go down here to workshop, another one of our partners, community storefront for community improvement, they have several programs that our dads benefit from. The workforce development locations that are in the city, we send them there too. We have ongoing open doors of partnerships, so we always try to practice a warm referral. So you get a name, you're not just given a number when you come in. So you have a point person to refer to that before they pass you on, I'm gonna know the trail of who you're gonna follow. So I can ask the questions to help you remain accountable, or you can ask me the questions if you forget. Because we're having conversations to know that you showed up. So when I greet you and see you on Tuesday, like, hey, yeah, they told me you had a great time over there the other day. You stayed for a long time. Oh, they called you? They sure did. Because we have your back. If you come into our fold, we've got your back, but you've got to do the walking. We'll walk with you, but we want to walk with you. We want to be coaches in the space and not dictators or teachers.
Those are great ideas. And I know we have quite a few participants. We have well over 30 people joining us today. And if any of you have any questions or comments about what's working or not working with your programs, please raise your hand. Or if you don't want to raise your hand and open your mic, please put it in the chat. We're happy to share your questions with Chad, because this is an opportunity. Chad is going to present on April 10th, as he said earlier, in a workshop. So this is kind of preemptive, little show teaser for that. And we encourage you to join us for that. It's going to be a little bit more in depth, I believe, than what we're doing today. This is just an overview of the programs that Chad works with and how he works. Thank you, Dee Dee. Put the link in our chat, and you can always find it on our website. Chad, you mentioned something that's really interesting, because I know I ran across this quite a few times. Whenever we had fathers programs, we would have mothers that would come and say, but I'm the dad, so I need to be here. How do you account for those moms that are also being dads? Do you present a different program to them? Are they accepted into the programs by other fathers? What's their role?
We've not had the experience where that's been the verbiage, because I will credit our former CEO, who is now with Be Strong Families, with this concept. When we first moved, and that's Alexandra James, if you had the opportunity to work with her. She's a friend, but also a mentor equally in this space. When we were building out the fatherhood program, initially with a local governmental organization, we were their local faith-based / community partner in the framing, and using the equity that we had built in the community to find the locations to do the work. But it was such a push for fatherhood that Alexandra constantly said, but what about mom? What about mom? What about mom? And when it came back from the dads, what happened in our first 2 cohorts of me facilitating and helping other men facilitate, we would get these dads that, I tried what you said. She said she thought I was going to take the kids. And I said, why would you think I'm going to take the kids? Because you came in here with all this lofty language, and somebody put a battery in your back because you in a little program now, right? This is what we used to get from dads. And Alexandra's voice was one that, hey, just because we got programs for dad, that's a step. You have to give mom the same framing language from her perspective. So what we did was about a year and a half later, we began building our motherhood and co-parenting program, which happened to operate from the space of being the same core curriculum activities, just geared towards the perspective of mom or dad. Ultimately, these programs are really about pro-parenting. And when I use that term pro-parenting, I mean progressive parenting. In being a progressive parent, an accountable parent, the core components of the curriculum are so incredibly similar that a person who's versed in both could have a very effective co-parenting conversation with mom and dad after they've been through the programs. So the Responsible Fatherhood program is sort of a precursor before bringing them to the table to effectively have a conversation for co-parenting, if that makes sense. So we try to share the same curriculum framing language with mom from mom's perspective, so that they are able to have an equitable conversation, if that makes sense.
Definitely makes sense. So we have one comment from William Robinson. He just says, wow, period.
I hope that's a good wow, William. I hope it's
I think so. I think it is, because all of this hearing the success that you've had with your father's programs and fathers engaging is something that I can say for myself has not been the case. That's always a question. How do we engage fathers? And, encourage all of you that are here present, please ask your questions, put your comments. Ask Chad right now that you have the opportunity. If you have any programs that you're using right now, or maybe you did an engagement program and it didn't work, or you had a really successful one, we'd love to hear it. That's why we're here. We're all here to engage our parents and get them to come to our programs, because we feel that our communities are going to grow because of it. And I love the language that you use, Chad, when you say pro-parenting and pro-children, pro-kids. That is, keeping that in mind, I think that would change a lot of parents' perspectives when you're facing families that are being broken in so many different ways, whether it's divorce or any other kind of loss. If you keep the children in mind, then it's a very different way that you would approach it than you would if you, as the parent, you're trying to defend where you stand. Because I know the way my husband sees things is very different from the way I approach things.
Sure. But you know what I think? I think sometimes, in my experience in working with parents, in my own personal experience, it's very easy for a parent to fall in adversarial engagement when there's a lack of agreement or a lack of a common vision. And if you bring the conversation back to, but what about the kids? And you might not phrase it that way, but what about the children? But what about the children? Eventually it gets to a place that what you feel as though she did, eventually as dad, you've got to dial back what you did. You've got to account for those things, at least be able to admit it to yourself that, hey, what part did I play in this fragmentation? Before you can come to remedy, you've got to identify the nature of the problem. I use this analogy about word problems. You got 4 types of people in the world. And I use this with my dad. I say, Susie has 76 apples and oranges, and she's got 15 more apples than oranges. How many pieces of fruit does Susie have of each? The first person says, well, I've got to solve this. I need to figure a number that subtracts to 15 and 2 numbers that add to 67. The second person is going to say, well, I don't know how to solve that, but I'm going to call the Google, type it up, or I'm going to ask somebody who can help me. The third person says, I'm not going to solve it at all. I'm not going to do it. And the fourth person is the one that says, well, apples and oranges, how come she's not eating grapefruit and watermelon? It's better for you. And they're going a long diatribe about this new condition that does not solve the problem. If you find yourself with the number 1 dad that says, hey, I want to solve it, that's great. If you find a number 2 dad that came to you because he's going to ask you for help, that's great. If you got the dad that says he's not going to participate, you won't see him. He's not going to show up. The fourth person that creates the excuse rather than addresses the problem is the one that needs the most redirection into being accountable. And it reigns true. This is how we try to teach our children to be accountable. We expect for our mates or the mother of our children to be accountable, but as men and dads, we have to be accountable as well. And if we can spark that accountability, then we can begin a process of healing and work on the fabric of our families to be more supportive and effective in society.
Amen. Yes, I totally agree. And I agree with William. I'm going to reiterate. Wow, period. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chad. I learned so much. I am encouraged to move forward with some programming specifically for father engagement. I have a whole new insight, and I have some new tools in my back pocket. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. For additional information, please contact, here is all of Chad's contact information, his email and his phone number, and his website at tflconline.org. You can find him at Trinity First. There's quite a few programs on there, some more information on Chad and Trinity and all the programs that they do in their community. So please be sure to look him up on the web. And we hope to see you all on April 10th. Next slide, please, Steve. What's next for Be Strong Families? We have a webinar coming up next week called Community a community taking action against child abuse as we prepare for Child Abuse Prevention Month with Valerie McDaniels. That'll be March 22nd, right here on YouTube and Be Strong Families at 12 p.m. Central Time. And our Taste of Cafes tomorrow, our theme is it's actually going to be good vibes only. And we have another one coming up Wednesday, April the 12th, and Friday, April 28th. We hope that you all will join us for those. You can register at Be Strong Families as well for those. And these are participatory, so we hope that you guys will join us. It's a little taste of cafe. Next slide, please, Dee. Please be sure to look us up on for our webinars and join our YouTube community. Just click the subscribe button and you'll get the weekly and monthly webinars and information on everything that we're doing. Next slide, please. You can shop all of our cafe supplies, parent engagement resources, games, gifts, and so much more at our Be Strong Families shop. So please be sure to look things up there. Mother's Day is coming up. We have some beautiful new mugs that you are welcome to find. And then we also have our questionable game. So please look us up online at bestrongfamilies.org. Next slide, please, Dee. Again, thank you for joining us today at Enhancing and Empowering Conversations for Positive Change. You can use a QR code on the screen and register for the upcoming conversations. We hope to see you again soon. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
See y'all later. Thank you again.
Thank you, Chad. It was nice meeting you. I really enjoyed today.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you on the 10th.
Sure will. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye, Dee.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Dee.
bye everyone. I will be closing out the